honestly. Facebook. Yay, we are. Brilliant. Well, that was a bit of a palaver, wasn't
Yay.
it? A little bit of a palaver. We just
Hey,
hope everybody is well. I'm just having a look for us in Facebook. See if I can find where we are. If you're around, give us a wave, say hello, all those other nice things that we always like to see. So we know we're not actually talking to ourselves. Oh, there we go. I can see myself. That's encouraging. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. We've got nobody talking to us at the moment.
we have Donna, but Donna is commenting on the wrong video. I hope she's got us now. Donna, let us know if you've got us.
There's
And
Andrea waving from the west coast of Canada, waving back. I've never been to
hey,
the west coast of Canada. That's on the list. Super duper. Lovely to see you. Coolio.
I don't know what I should do about Donna. Maybe she'll figure it out. I think she's watching a recording rather than. Never mind, doesn't matter.
I'm sure she can take
Doesn't
care of that.
matter.
So we've got
Cool.
some lovely people watching at the moment. We've got Vera. Hi, Vera again. Lovely to see you. Hope all is well
Hi.
from lovely Lisbon. We've got LJ. Oh, it's kicking off now. Brilliant.
Wonderful.
We don't feel lonely now and sad, which nobody needs. Right. So shall we kick off with our special topic?
Let's. I'm still not seeing us in Facebook, but I'm sure it'll come.
We're definitely, yes.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Um,
So,
and today's topic is a really important one, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely. It's one that you see so much said about, but not all of it's exactly what we need for people like us who are owners of dogs that can overreact to stuff.
mm,
So, so yeah. Right, let's start digging into it.
it's irritating me that I can't see
Is
that.
that
I can't see any of the comments. I can't see anything in the Facebook group. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
have you clicked on the newest activity
Let's
thing
have a
to
look.
sort it by that? Because that always gets me.
Okay, let's.
So we can get that at the top. Okay.
There we go. You fixed me. Thank you, Julia.
Teamwork,
Ah,
dream team, as
okay.
always.
Oh, Vera, brilliant. Hi, Vera. And Andrea and LG are here. Wonderful. Okay, cool. So today's topic is all about socializing reactive dogs and what can all go wrong, right? So maybe we should just start introducing or start explaining what we mean by socializing reactive dogs and why it's important to talk about this. Do you know,
Okay.
I can start
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to think, when we say the word socialization, what pops up into people's heads when we're talking about any dogs, really, whether they're reactive or not. And I suppose we start talking about socialization, don't we, with tiny puppies, and we talk about socialization windows and all that kind of stuff.
And maybe guys watching or watching the replay, why don't you pop in the comments when you hear socialization, what immediately comes to your mind? Just put it in the chat. Sorry, Julia.
No, I
Just
think it's
interesting to
absolutely.
see, especially since we are a community of guardians or owners of reactive dogs, what people associate with socialization. So sorry, I interrupted you. You go
No,
go
no, no,
ahead.
no, that's fantastic. That's a really, really good idea. And we know from, what we've heard that this is something that's really, really crucial. And I know for me, as a trainer, you get people coming to you say, look, I need to socialize my dog. I know I need to socialize him more, and how important it is. And can I take my dog to classes so they can be socialized? All this kind of stuff.
Mm.
So it's really ingrained in that psyche as an important thing to do. Um, so LJ's just said we need a different word for getting comfortable out in the world. And I think that's right, because otherwise you get this impression that socialization is basically putting our dogs in front of as many other dogs and as many people as is humanly possible. So they
Yeah.
get used to it, and then they will somehow manage to absorb all this brilliant sociability and become these super social creatures. That's kind of
Yeah.
the idea, isn't it?
Yeah, no, totally. So what we want to do today is we want to talk a little bit about what reactivity, just go back a step and sort of talk about what reactivity means. And then we want to cover some misconceptions about how we best help our dogs with their reactiveness, if you want to go with that label, and some common misconceptions about socialization. And then we want to talk about best practices, right? And give you guys some tips on strategies how you can help your dogs with that.
Yeah,
So yeah. So shall we quickly maybe recap a bit about what we mean when we talk about reactivity?
absolutely. That's a great idea. Look,
Go for it. Oops, did you mute yourself? I can't hear you. Or did I mute? No. Sound's gone. I can't hear you.
could you give me a wave if you can hear me?
Yeah, now you're back.
I'm back. Okay, brilliant. It says my internet connection's unstable. So hopefully we'll be able to carry on and nothing bad will happen. Okay, so reactivity. Reactivity stems from an emotional response in dogs to a situation that they are in. And, all dogs and all animals, all creatures are reacting to all sorts of different things all the time. It's part of being alive. If you weren't reacting to anything, you wouldn't be alive. So we are always having reactions. When we talk about reactivity, that's just probably why it's a bit of a misnomer, to be honest. We're looking at an emotional response that is disproportionate with the situation. So it's a disproportionate response, it's an overreaction. So for seeing another dog, is it really appropriate and proportionate to bark and lunge at the lead and nearly pull your arms out of the socket? And that's kind of what we mean by reactivity. What would you add to that?
No, I think that's brilliant. And the important part is that it's really an emotional reaction. So it's not bad behavior. The dog is not wrong when they overreact. They really can't help it, right? And that's really so important to remember. And I just love it. Andrea put it in some associations with socialization. So we go back to these when we get to talking about it in more detail. So okay, so if something that we really need to remember when we look at our dog's overreaction, disproportionate reaction to something, that something is really a trigger to the dog, right? So typically the triggers that most of the people that come and say my dog is reactive, what are the most common triggers that they'll obvious, that are obvious, that stand out and that are important, I don't know what is wrong with me today. I'm saying the wrong words. Not that are important, but that come to mind. And you guys, again, you can share in the chat your own dog's triggers. What sets your dogs off, right? In a way that is a bit disproportionate,
Yeah,
too big. So that could be other dogs, hey? It could
absolutely.
be I know that for my youngest dog here at home, it will be cats. strange cats that appear in our garden that completely, you know,
All
his
cats are
brain
lovely.
explodes.
Yeah. I was
Um,
I had a consult with somebody this afternoon with a nervous rescue dog. And one of her triggers, well, her triggers are things like tractors, big lorries, those kind of things. So those are
mm,
massive triggers for
mm,
her.
mm.
Um, I remember bins were a trigger for Hattie when I first had her. She's
Oh
a
yeah, definitely
tiger,
one
yeah.
for
Yeah.
really definitely one for Falcon. Right now, now and I are one for Falcon. Maybe Falcon, you go and hang out with your dad. Um, I'm just sorting out my book quickly.
Yeah, you go and sort out Mr. Falcon, whatever he's up to. So the triggers can be, we think of things like dogs, we think of things like visitors and people. Those are kind of things we think of typically, but then there are other triggers as well. Um, and for some dogs, it can be things that move, traffic, for things, herding type breeds, particularly, traffic can be a big deal. Um, so there's lots of different ones, and they tend to be, they can be triggers at very different levels. So there's that big explodey triggers. There's the kind of I'm really not happy about that at all triggers, or there's the kind of oh there you are triggers.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really important to remember that there are all sorts of things that can upset a dog or overexcite a dog or contribute to how they feel. So, we then talk about trigger stacking. So other things beside those big things that we're really aware of all contribute to how a dog reacts. So, and that also explains why they're sometimes okay and sometimes they're not okay. So we have talked about this in some detail in the reactivity reset 5-day challenge, didn't we?
We
So
did, yes.
so you can go and have a look at those videos if you want to delve a little bit deeper into that topic. And Julia, in that video, Julia gives a really cool explanation on the whiteboard with the bucket, and how all the different things go into the dog's bucket until it finally overflows. And we get
Exactly.
this big, big reaction.
And then as LJ said in the group, it's all about those big, huge feelings, isn't it? It's all
Hmm.
about animals with big feelings. So if you want to have a look at the reactivity reset, if you have a look at if you click on the group name, and then go to guides, it's in there, and you can get each of the 5 days separately and follow that. It's a really interesting thing to do. So that's what reactivity actually is. So,
Cool. Hmm?
but there are a lot of misconceptions about socialization in general, aren't there?
Yeah, totally. So, in the past, socialization wasn't really much of a thing, right? I mean, dogs were dogs. People might also have lived differently. I don't know. But in recent, I don't know, last couple of decades, maybe, I don't know. Socialization's become really a big thing. And puppy, you have a new puppy, everybody tells you you need to socialize your puppy as early as possible, before they're 16 weeks old. There's all sorts of rules, so many people a day, so many dogs a day, so many women a day,
Yeah.
so many men with beards,
You
so
get
many
these like
at large.
checklists, didn't you? It was
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
300 things you had to check off. You had to see 100 people. You had to see a man with a hat.
yeah. And
Somebody
all of
riding a
this
horse.
in that those sort of 2 to 4 week period, right? When you first get the puppy. So
Yeah.
there's and a lot of pressure, to get it all done in that crucial, crucial window.
Yeah.
And I'm
Like the socialization window you get talked.
yeah, yeah.
You can't
And
take the dog out until they've had the vaccination. So you've got like 4 weeks if you're lucky to do it all.
yeah. And it
And if
creates
you
a lot of
don't, you're
pressure.
stuffed.
Yeah. And so now it's not, we're not saying that it's wrong, don't socialize your puppies, but what can happen is that both owner and dog can end up feeling really pressured and get overfaced. Too many things, too many exciting, potentially scary, sometimes overwhelming things are happening to a young puppy. And then that can actually go
Mm,
pear-shaped, right?
exactly.
Because we're just adding on, adding on, adding on. And either that dog gets so overwhelmed that they then develop a fear response right there and then, or, but maybe even more so, they become so expectant of greeting everyone, every person, every dog, everything that they see, and they want to run up to them. And then you get your frustrated greeter that is a teenage dog full of energy, super boisterous, pulling on the leash, like, there's no tomorrow to get to every single dog, every single person. Of course, you can't, now they're not the little puppy anymore. You don't want them to do that. You don't want them to pull on the leash and so on. And before we know it, we have a lot of barrier frustration and pulling on the leash and whatnot, and all the lunging and biting that goes with that, right, in the teenage dog. So a little bit, we're not saying don't socialize your puppies, don't get us wrong, but we want to be aware of that things can go wrong.
They
Right?
absolutely can. And I think it's that kind of thing that more is better. That's the
Mm.
danger, isn't it? That more is
Mm.
better, and you've got to take every single opportunity. And that, as we say, can be totally the opposite of what have totally the opposite impact of what you want.
And now, how often have you heard somebody, I don't know how often people contact me and they say, I've got a dog, he's a year old, 2 years old, sometimes even an older dog, and he's not used to other dogs. He lunges and barks, when we walk. He really needs, I want him to meet more dogs and socialize with more dogs. Can I come to group class? Right? So the underlying assumption is that a dog needs more exposure to other dogs or people or whatever it is that they are reacting to. And it's exactly what you say, that belief that more is better.
And that's in fact not the case at all. And you've got to be quite careful um, with the socialization. It's it can be pretty unsafe actually, because if you get a bad experience for your dog, you know, these things do happen, especially if you're just trying to get every opportunity to stick your dog in front of a person or another dog.
Yeah. So if you have a look in the chat, so Andrea shared her understanding of socialization, interaction that is safe, healthy, enriching, and suitable for the breed, size, temperament, behavior, comfort, etc., between the dogs or with the people. So I love that.
There's some lovely words in there that are really helpful.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now, the thing is, in order to create the safe, healthy, enriching, suitable, appropriate interactions, it doesn't actually have to be with dogs or people,
It's true.
even if that is what the dog is reacting to, right? We want to create confident dogs that they can deal with new stuff. Right? And the same with puppies, that is why these checklists are so, there's not just people on there, right? There's not just dogs on there. There's all sorts of new environments, new things that you can bring in and so on. But we always have to see what our dog is, how our dog is reacting to that. So understanding what they're communicating in those interactions, that's really so important, isn't it?
Mm.
And that means that we need to understand how our dog is telling us that they're liking a thing, how they're telling us that they're hating a thing, and how they're telling us that they're like meh, you know, not neutral about something. So and they do that with their behavior. They do that with their bodies. No, they don't speak to us. They don't use their voices. They really do that through body language.
Mm.
And that means that we have to really know what, what each individual dog, because every dog is different, how they communicate, how they feel.
So what shall we do then? Okay, so if we're not going to be going out and just exposing our dogs, how are we going to actually achieve this? So the focus needs to be on safety. It needs to be on physical safety, social safety, and emotional safety. So we need to think of those three. The physical safety obviously needs to come first for the dog. They want to know that nobody's going to actually hurt them. And then you get that social safety and emotional safety. But it's not something we can teach dogs. This is an Andy Hale quote. Dogs need to feel it. You can't teach it. So it's about setting up situations appropriately to grow those different safeties so that the dog really feels it. And that then changes them from the inside out.
Exactly. So that is so important. I mean, I'm just getting goosebumps because every time we talk about this, there is a new little thing that falls into place, So often people will think, or when I get somebody come to me with their reactive dogs, and I say, well, the first thing is we want to make your dog feel safe, so we use management and we avoid exposing them to the triggers. And then it's so quick to assume that that is just avoiding the issue. But we need lots and lots and lots of positive experiences for our dogs, for them to actually feel safe. And they can only grow confident as long as they feel safe. So very, very often people think that they need to expose the dog more to the thing that scares them or overexcites them, or in any way brings up the big feelings, then actually you first want to build confidence in the dog. And that's something we talked about last week, right? Tips about how we can build confidence in a dog. So that is definitely, so protecting them from the trigger, understanding their body language, and building confidence. Those are all things that we can do without ever socializing our reactive dog with other dogs or big triggers or anything like that. But we still expose them to stuff, but we do it in a way that they feel safe, and that can totally be at home, and it can be through things like cardboard chaos, right, Julia, where they're
Bubble Cows
exposing
name's
them
a good
to
one.
boxes that might fall over. Every dog is different. For some of your dogs that might be like, man, I got this. But for some of the sensitive dogs or the rescues, this is a big step.
The dog I was working with today, actually, she was on one box, one empty box. That was where we started. So yeah,
Mm. Mm.
absolutely. And I mean, I don't, I assume this is the same over the world, but I know here you get socialization parties that, people will put on, whether they're doggy daycare people or whatever. And it's a pretty kind of free for all where lots of dogs are off lead. Sometimes they can be, separated by size or breed or whatever, but it's not a very controlled environment. Now imagine, I mean, I've got an example of this actually. It was something that I saw myself, where in a class, not with me in charge, this is when I was helping, there was a free for all at the end, and a dog got cornered by another dog, had a really nasty experience. It wasn't injured or anything. It was just that emotional, social issue.
Mm. Mm.
Really nasty experience. And actually, that ended up having a massive impact. So when you were talking about how much more impactful the negative experiences are, I think a lot of us, if we think with our own dogs, actually there was this thing that happened, and we quite often will look at that and see after that there were some issues, not just for the dog but for ourselves as well. So
Mm.
if you think that, to kind of put that bad experience right, you need to have, say, 100 good experiences, because we always think of the bad experience more than we think of the good experience, that negative bias, which is the
Mm.
same for our dogs. During those 100 experiences where you're trying to get good ones, what are the chances of nothing bad happening? And that's
Mm.
why actually having that control over and being very controlled about how you're building that sort of interaction and how that's actually happening is so,
Mm.
so, so crucial.
Mm. That goes back to what you said right in the beginning, that reactivity is actually a survival strategy.
Yeah,
And the negativity bias and remembering the scary thing, that's a natural survival strategy. As again, that is why, it's kind of in the biology of the organism to remember the dangerous stuff more than the nice stuff, because it's the dangerous stuff that can kill you. The nice stuff is nice, but it's not going to kill you. Right? The consequences are so much more dire. And the dogs don't know that we're keeping them safe. He's saying, silly, silly twit, I'm here, I'll protect, but the dogs don't know that, So that, but, all the more important is relationship building, the more trust there is between you and the dog and you, and so on. That is why that is another really important layer when we talk about helping our reactive dogs and successfully socializing them. So I'm just checking here in the chat, and LG just shared that free work, scent work, sniffy walks are growing Bodhi's confidence and allowing him to choose where, what, and when to engage with new things. Yeah, choice is a biggie. And then choice also, I mean, we have to be, this is a bit of a, I mustn't get carried away now, because it's a bit of a thing for me. We can also overwhelm a dog with too many choices.
that's
And
true,
I think
actually.
the reason why this is a biggie for me is because it happens to me. I get, too many choices. I get overwhelmed. I don't know, three
Don't
times
you
a
love
day.
it when you go to a restaurant and they give you the menu and they tell you what you're going to have, or you've got a choice of two or three things? I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. Oh my goodness. I get
Like
John
crack
here,
on.
he'll make tea. He says, "You want a cup of tea?" And I say, "Yeah, please." So now I love herbal teas and things like that. So then he'll say, "What kind?" I don't know. Just surprise
Make
me.
one.
He's so nice. So look, so I'm not, it's a little bit different with the dogs, but sometimes they also want, dogs love structure.
Mm,
So if there's too much choice, then that's often the same as a lack of structure. We do want choice-based training in that. We do want the element of choice everywhere, but we also want to set dogs up that they can successful and that they make choices that we know are good for them and good for us. And we do that in a very gentle way, right? With choice-based.
exactly. Because
Um,
there are bad choices as well, and we want to,
mm,
help them, guide them to make the good ones. So
mm.
if we can block off a couple of those bad choices, then it's
Yeah,
got to be a
yeah,
good thing.
yeah, yeah. So I just had that with my two dogs, where we had this recent challenge where something, a bad interaction had happened, and it really set us back in the just one, not even it wasn't even a bad fight or anything, but a bad interaction between the two dogs, and it set us back months on their relationship building. And then I could see how the choice was, it was important for Noah to be able to escape, to remove himself from a situation and not, interact with Falcon. But at the same time, I also had to put some structure in place. Otherwise, I had no chance to help them overcome the difficult place that they're in, because now I would just avoid Falcon and hide all the time, right? So anyway, let's not go down that rabbit. That's a rabbit hole for me. So we don't. But maybe that is something we could make a topic of,
Yeah,
right?
that's a
One of
good
these
idea.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Um, so let's go back to what
Where
we can
were
do.
we?
Yeah, where were we? What can we? What are some great tips and strategies? So really understanding the dog's body language and watching what the thresholds are, so that when your dog is switching from you know the traffic light system, like where we talk about the amber and the dog is, well, the green is when your dog is absolutely relaxed and fine and happy, and then amber is like they're noticing something. It's getting a little bit more like worried or, and then red is when they're completely over threshold,
Yeah.
lunging, biting, or withdrawing or shutting down kind of a thing. So you want to be able to read your dog so that you know when they're going from green into the amber, so you can prevent them from switching into the red.
Yeah.
So that's super important. And then what actionable tips are there? What would be your first tip, Julia?
Okay, so my first tip, I think having that confidence in that relationship, the foundation of everything. So with a reactive dog, if you've got a dog that's reactive, there's there is some confidence missing somewhere. But keeping that relationship strong as well. And that's the brilliant thing with confidence type games that you play, or teaching tricks, for example, which is a really nice one. Because it's helping build that relationship as well. And you need to have that because your dog can't trust you and feel totally safe with you unless that relationship is really positive. And one of the problems with having a dog that's reactive is it's so blooming frustrating, and you feel a little bit betrayed sometimes, I think, and it can impact that relationship that you have with the dog. So doing things that are less pressurized and more fun, which have the side effect of building the confidence, are absolutely spot on. And doing those at home. So you're in a non-pressured environment. It's nice and easy. There's nothing around that's going to, scupper anything or put you off track. So I think that would be with any reactive dog. And when we're looking, it's almost like a precursor for any type of socialization. It's building skills so that you can then access the socialization.
Yeah.
That has to be first.
So games, I mean, when I always talk about games.
We love
So
games.
teaching skills to your dog, and ideally through games that help you with reorientation towards you, disengaging when the dog starts, I'm interested in this, staring at it, whatever. That you can get them to reorient back to you, disengage from the thing. Those are really, really important. And you have to build that at home. You can't do that in the presence of the trigger. That's really key.
Won't work.
So any of this has to happen at home first, so that when you're out in the world and your dog notices a leaf and says, "Oh, what's that?" You can practice with a harmless thing like that. So even at home, you don't want to bring in the triggers at home, but you want to use mild distractions at home so you can practice the dog, looking at something, being interested or worried, maybe not worried about it. We don't want to create worry with our dogs, but something that they're interested in, and then we can get them to engage back to us, or maybe even create lots of things that are out in the world become white noise to the dog, because we've practiced so much with them at home and showed them mild distractions, a variety of different mild distractions where they can be successful, so that when we out and about, that bucket doesn't fill, right? Woo, there's this, woo, there's that, woo, there's that, and then there is a dog. Oh, and then it's right on. So that's really, I think, really important.
Yeah.
And you mentioned tricks, and I love tricks because they tick so many boxes, right? Tricks training really helps us build a great relationship. It's great for confidence building because we're not really that attached to the outcome when we teach a trick, right? It's not so, it's not about obedience. It's really about a fun trick. And then we can use that. So we build relationship, we build confidence for both of us, and then we can take those things out on the road and play with our dogs. And the more we do things, interact with our dogs out on the road, the easier it actually is for them to reorient to us, to disengage from something. If we're just walking along with the dog at the end of the lead and we're watching something or texting or or listening to music, or, we're not connected. So
Mm.
then anything that the dog notices will always be more what's the word?
Exciting,
Yeah, whatever. So it's more
engaging.
difficult to get them to disengage. So what are your favorite tricks that you would take on the road?
For me on the road, I like paws up, so two paws on an object. Love that. I love a middle. Middle's
Mm,
very useful on the road, I find. We like, what else do we do when we do some hand touches
mm,
for nice simple stuff. Sometimes we'll do some, we might do a couple of leg weaves or something like that, which is because that's quite an active one to do. You have to be careful to not trip over the lead. That's a skill in its blooming self.
yeah, I love
But
it.
I kind of like that. It's kind of fun.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
what about you? What do you do?
All of those, and then with Falky, I do a lot of high five,
Mm,
this one, a wave, whatever you want to call it.
like a wave,
So
right?
what, and every dog is different, right? With
Mm.
Emma, I used to do hand targets a lot, the bouncy ones. So if I had to
Yeah,
get her past another dog over there, I would. If I just left her, you know, if I just left her and we just walked by, sometimes she'd just walk by. But if I just like go loose leash, whatever, and she looks, and then she might stare, and maybe that dog stares back, and then the next thing I get her getting stiff, and then she stops, and then
then you know.
right, then I get a reaction.
Mm,
Whereas if I play with her as we're walking past, and with her it was often the hand target, so she would bounce up and up and up and up, and then we pass the dog, and then it's kind
yeah.
of cool.
Shawnee says she uses a search, so that's when you throw a piece of
Mm.
food and you tell your dog that they can go and search for it.
So it's really important that we have a little repertoire of behaviors, even if it's just one favorite one or two favorite ones, but something that we can our dogs reward for doing.
Yeah. And
Was I right?
it creates that connection for them, doesn't it? It creates
Yeah,
that inside outside connection. And we had
yeah.
one of our rebooters, didn't they? It was had some lovely success going out and about just with a really simple pattern game that they practiced at home. And she said that the dog was really on edge because he's a dog that gets on edge just being in a different location, really on edge. They started playing the game and it's like he clicked in his head, oh, I know this one. And it
Mm,
really helped.
yeah.
To be
It really,
honest,
mm,
sorry, it takes us back to what socialization is really about, which is our dogs being comfortable in the presence of whatever it
yeah,
happens to be, whether it's dogs or people or what else. So
yeah,
they're confident and they're comfortable and they will still be able to listen to us. And it's not
yeah,
about them wanting to be mates with everybody. It's
yeah,
about having that feeling of, like Barbara said right at the start, it's that social and emotional safety as well as the
yeah,
safety.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that you said that they don't have to be mates with everybody. And I mean, when we, a big thing when we, with the socialization of reactive dogs is to be really realistic about your goals.
Yeah,
So I don't want to be mates with every person either, right? And dogs also have
definitely
quite
not.
distinct likes and dislikes, and they don't want to hang out with everybody. And actually, and as much as we all love to see our dogs play with another dog, that interaction is not as important as a good interaction with you, as feeling, the dog really trusting you and feeling safe with you, and building that relationship should always, always, always come
Mm.
first,
And
right?
there has been some research on this where they've looked at brain patterns and all sorts of geeky stuff. And I can't remember who did it off the top of my head, but it did show that connection with humans is stronger for dogs than it is with other dogs. No,
Wow, we need
I
to
know.
find that. That's really, we
I
need to
know.
search.
I really need to remember where I read that. But yeah, it was, proper
Mm.
stuff.
Okay, so
Nice comments that we could do with having a look at.
oh, sorry, Emma.
LJ 123 game, yeah, lovely. That was the one that the rebooter used. So
Mm,
yeah, that's a good one. Reinforcement zone, tuck under. What's a tuck under? Sometimes we do the same things and have different words for them.
mm,
It usually happens. And what was the other one? And hand targets. Uh,
mm.
Emma says that go sniff and walks without worry is useful for my dog to break eye contact. Go sniff is a lovely one. And it's an intrinsic reward, isn't it?
Yes, yes,
You've
yes.
disengaged from the scary thing, so the other dog or the exciting thing. You've disengaged for that. You can go and have a sniff, and that gives you an intrinsic reward. So that's it.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, I love that. And LG says we stopped free play with other dogs and are doing much better. I
yeah,
really like that, LG. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It really, really helps. So before we have a question that we need to address. And if you guys have questions, you're very welcome to put
Can
them
I
in the
just
chat.
put one thing just on the socialization thing? In
Absolutely.
terms of, if you when you're growing any sort of interaction with other dogs, if you do have a sociable dog, I would just say just make sure that what you're doing is with a dog and an owner that you know and that you trust.
Mm,
That's really important. I mean, they don't have to have it at all, but if you do, you need to
mm.
make it as safe as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keep it
Sorry.
short. So some guidelines would be to keep it really short
Yes.
and to always make it contingent on interaction with you.
Yeah. And watching. So if there's play, watching to make sure that they're chasing each
Mm.
other and, all those other,
That it's balanced, right?
yeah,
This one
balance.
on top, if they're wrestling, that they're changing, one on top, the other one on top, that you see nice, relaxed stuff, play ball, nothing that's too frantic, and not
Yeah.
all the calming signals all on one side, kind of a thing. You want to keep an eye on what's happening and keep it short. And if the dog looks stressed, then that's okay. But you will see if they keep looking at you and yawning or any stress signals, then you just take them,
Or if
keep
you
it short,
start
take it.
getting overflowing bucket behaviors,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
humping, that
Any of
kind of
the
thing,
dogs.
that could be a
Yeah,
kind of, okay, we've had enough.
totally, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So,
Oh, LJ, I know what you mean. It's that little shuffle back into middle, isn't it? That,
oh, right.
backwards from the front.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool on that.
That's a
Little
nice one.
shuffle. Yeah, love that one.
Yes, yes, yes.
Andrea does parkour in the park.
Love
Um,
that.
yeah, I do that all the time. I just love it. It's too much fun. Yeah, and it's a really good idea. So doing that at the start of a walk, you end up getting that focus and that kind of interaction straight away, don't you? So you're setting the environment up
Mm,
on a good positive point.
mm.
Cool.
Okay. So if we just
Back to our
summarize the
question.
key points, we didn't do anything on the whiteboard today. We should have. Anyways, so what we
I'm a
said,
bit gutted, to
safety
be fair.
first, right? Physical, social, emotional safety first. Protect them from the triggers. Beware, when you expose them, always under threshold. That's really important. We didn't actually say the threshold word, but if you go into the reset challenge, you'll find I popped the link in the comments. Then you'll find more information on that. And then we want to build confidence first. Everything at home, we start at home, build confidence first. And we want to build relationship with us first. So trick training is a really nice one, sniffy stuff, anything, that is really confidence building for the dog. And then when we do start exposing them to the things that cause reactions, and then we have to start really, really slow from work under with the intensity really low, and ideally not in a behavior vacuum, not just feeding, 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 feeding food, right? But we want to do it where we actually have the dogs doing something, making nice choices, making decisions. So when we take the games that we played at home out with us, into these scenarios, so they can do make choices that then lead to them being praised by us and us doing things together, and they recognize these patterns, etc., etc., you'll have much faster success.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then those of you, if you want some help, some tips on games that you could play when you're out and about, there is, Emma mentioned, the Walks Without Worry, which is currently not open for enrollment. But if you would like to get in there, just send us an email to contact@barkinguptherighttree.com. I pop it in the comments, then we can absolutely see what we can do for you. Okay.
Cool. And the other thing is that we've got at the moment is if you want to have a bit more of a discussion into your dog's behavior and how you could help get your dog to where you need them to be. We have got some 90-minute one-to-one spots which are on super duper offer at the moment. We've got them on at 80% off. So
I'll put the link in here, guys. If anyone feels they're stuck or would like us to help, are you doing it? Okay.
I was, but then I stopped.
You go ahead, you do it.
I'll do it.
Feel free to drop us a note or just go to this link that Julia's about to pop in the chat, and then you can book your diagnostic call. Okay, and by all means, do pop in if you have any questions for us on this topic or ideally on this topic, then pop them in the chat now. We still have a little bit of time.
The other thing that would be really, really nice is because we're having these sort of a little bit more of a deep dive into various topics. If you have any requests for things that you'd really want us to talk more about, anything to do with reactivity at all, you think would be interesting, either, put it in the chat now or drop us an email or send us a message to the page.
Let us know. We're here. This is for you, so we want to know. That's a good point. That's really cool, Julia. Actually, because we need to know what you want to know, right?
So right. We can just
okay, and then we have a question that was posted by Virginia.
We do.
And it's so on topic. So Virginia writes, I always find it hard to decide whether to let Sonic go and meet new people, dogs, or even objects and environments, or to protect him and keep him focused on me and ignoring the world. I know socializing could also mean teaching my dog to be okay with the world running around, but sometimes I feel like his life could be more rich with some new experiences. How do I find a balance, and when, according to his temp, should I let him have a chance to meet new things so that I'm pretty sure it will be a positive experience? Wow.
What a brilliant blooming question. Just to clarify, temp. So temp is a Susan Garrett thing, isn't it? All about checking your dog's body language so you can see where they are emotionally.
Yeah.
So it is, what is it? Tail,
ears,
eyes,
ears. It's TEE.
Yeah.
Ears, eyes, mouth, and posture.
Yeah.
And it's a great acronym because we could take that temp, right? When things get too hot, we want them to stay cool. Anyway.
The reason I love this question is because it's so spot on in so many ways of the difficult balancing act.
Yeah.
Because when we're looking at our dogs and their confidence, we do want them to have different experiences. We do want them to interact with different things around the place. Of course we do. However, if it goes wrong, then that can then knock the confidence. So it's a question of, okay, so how do we balance that, especially considering what we've already said about socialization really be about your dog being comfortable, confident, and still able to interact with you. So that what you said about knowing about your dog's temp is crucial. So you can see from their body language. I would also, I want to kind of break it down, I think, into the little bits So for, say, for objects, for example, so you're in the park or something and your dog wants to go and have a sniff at something or, investigate something or other. With those, that's great that they do that, but let's do that in a controlled way so that you maybe for a sniff spot, for example, you give that as a reward for doing something else. So you could do a couple of your tricks, go, okay, let's go and explore over here now. That's a really cool thing to do. And then you might bring them back and do something else. Let's go and explore over there now. So, and if they start not being able to disengage, then you've gone too far. Actually, that's where I need to leave it. So you'd need to do one of your sort of emergency exit strategies and move away from the thing. So that's what I would be doing with that. In terms of new people, I would just be really, 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 really picky. And in general, it's a no. It depends on my dog. So I very rarely with Hattie, for example, does she meet new people. It's only people that, I can see a reason for and I trust implicitly to respect her and her boundaries. Because as Barbara said earlier, she's one of those dogs that's just not very sociable. She likes her people, and that's pretty much it.
So, but when you say that, it's generally, then you're talking about people actually coming up to your dog and
Yeah, I
petting.
won't let anybody come up to her at all, at all. Um, and if with Dash, who's more sociable, for him, most people, I'd just be, I would say, I'd prefer it if you kept your distance. If it seemed to be appropriate for him, I'd say, okay, you give him the choice. Does he want to approach you? And if he does, then, and I'll give them some guidelines about what to do and what interaction I feel is appropriate, then we might do that. But it's really not that many at all. Not that many at all. And in terms of dogs, again, it's most dogs, it will be a no. There will be dogs that, if it's dogs of friends of mine, for example, then we might go for a walk and do things that are quite calm and just do things alongside each other rather than the mad play. So I kind of prefer those sorts of interactions, particularly initially. But if it's a dog that I don't know and I don't know their owners, then for me that's a flat no, just because the risk of having a bad experience is too great.
So I know that Virginia and Sonic are so they do dog sports.
Oh,
This dog and agility. But obviously it's been really difficult because we've been working together for quite some time, and because of Sonic's reactivity, Virginia hasn't been able to walk him, she hasn't been able to go to group training, she hasn't been able to trial him, and they made huge progress.
oh
So
wow.
they've been for walks, they've been to seminars, they've been to a trial in the margin, without actually competing. And they've also been doing some group trainings and that. And I think, and Virginia knows that Sonic is quite safe while he's working, but it is the interactions in between, the transitions, from the car to the ring, in the wait, in the when you wait for stuff, or also just on a walk where we're not necessarily working with our dogs and where the dog's focus is easier on the environment, but it can, because he's not a very confident dog.
Yeah.
So I agree with everything that Julia said. So on a walk or at a trial or and those things, I wouldn't let him necessarily interact or push him to interact with anybody or get too close. But the better you can read his body language and the more little games you have in your repertoire for in between, right? Keeping him engaged with you. And then you can see, because I also know that already he's started to be super friendly with certain individuals. And in a way, be more aware of that and more open to that. Just like you said, Julia, like when the dog suddenly, when you see that he's really loose and happy and maybe wants to go towards a particular dog or a particular person, as long as you know these people and you know they're not going to do anything rash, right? I think it's absolutely fine to do some more encounters like that. I think it is really important how we feel and that we know how to read the dogs. I see this with my two dogs when we had the nasty incident and then the dogs were separated. And we had a long separation phase when one of them was injured, not because of their interaction. It was a different story. Then when we reintroduced them, I was very tense and hovering and looking at every little sign of discomfort and immediately stepping in because I didn't feel secure. And the more, and that's okay, right? Because rather safe than sorry. But the more interactions happened, the more positive things that were happening, the more confident my dogs became, but also the more confident I become. And then it becomes sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I relax more. They have more relaxed interactions. I don't interfere every single time, right? And I let things go on a little bit. And then if one of them is a bit too wild, like now, right? I can't really pay attention. The one is a bit wound up. It's late. You know, why let him carry on, bother the other dog? So then I'm, saying, okay, I'll separate you now. So same thing, on a day where you feel really confident, you have a plan, you know what you're gonna do, and you know your dog and you can read them, then we can try a little bit more. But on a day where we don't feel secure in ourselves, we're likely not going to have a confident dog either. I think that how we feel in ourselves plays a big role. That and being able to read your dog are the most important bits, I think.
Exactly that. Fabulous. And it's almost like we've timed that to the second, to the hour.
Cool. Cool. So no more questions? Excellent.
No more
Yeah,
questions.
LG agrees. It's a very insightful
It was a
question.
great question, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. And
Very
Shawnee
cool.
says that even though she has a therapy dog, I do not let her socialize with old dogs, just the ones I know. Yeah, absolutely. Just because the therapy dog, a dog becomes therapy dog because of brilliant temperament, right? But that can go, even the dog with the best temperament, if they have a couple of nasty encounters, all of a sudden, so wouldn't take advantage of that. You are very, very wise, Shawnee. Very wise.
Definite wisdom. Definite.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for
Perfect,
long.
guys. I hope this was useful. Let us know.
We haven't got a live next week, have we?
No, because I'm going away.
Yeah, so Barbara's not going to be around, but we will pop one on for the week after. So, as I say, if there's any topics that you fancy us having a little dig into, do let us know.
I fancy talking about choice, but it doesn't have to happen
I
then.
think talking about choice would be really cool. I've got
Yeah.
some
But let us know, guys.
to do.
Yes. Right. Okay. Thanks so much for being here live. That's always so nice to have you guys here. And let us know what you would like to talk about. And please keep bringing your questions. That's why we're doing this. We really want to help.
Yeah. And we'll see you
Have a
soon.
wonderful rest of your day, wherever you are.
And a lovely weekend.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Ciao.